Hi everybody, my name is Ohad Maislish, co-founder and CEO of env0. env0 is an infrastructure as code management platform that allows you to combine self-service environments for your developers while keeping governance and guardrails for your organization. With the shift to microservices and cloud native, applications became much more complicated and developers are too dependent on DevOps for every simple task. Today, you basically have two options. If you're more worried about governance, you probably do not fully trust your developers and you do not give them full access to your cloud account. The developers, therefore, need to open tickets to the DevOps or SRE groups in order to provision and update cloud resources. This dramatically slows them down and creates significant bottleneck, forcing them to work on shared cloud environments. If you're more worried about speed and productivity, you usually do give developers full access to the cloud account, but this creates significant cloud costs, security, and other problems, and therefore unscalable as you grow. In order to combine self-service cloud environments with governance, env0 utilizes infrastructure as code frameworks like Terraform to provide management capabilities like self-service portal, role-based access, policy as code enforcement like Open Policy Agent, and budget limits. In some ways, env0 is an alternative to HashiCorp Terraform Enterprise, whereas env0 focuses on governance self-service for all developers, rather than just the operations team. With env0, developers can provision and update cloud environments within safe guardrails. So, if your organization started using infrastructure as code frameworks such as Terraform, we would love to have a talk with your DevOps or SRE group in order to explain more about our solution. Thank you very much. And now I would like to show you a product demo, and I hope you like it. Bye bye. I'm going to explain about env0. And the concept in env0 is that you have two types of users. You have the admins, the platform team, the DevOps team, and you have the others, mainly the developers, but anybody who needs to update and provision cloud resources. At env0 has a hierarchy of few entities. We have the global organization, and then we have the projects. Each project is a logical entity that combines users, Git repo, permissions, cloud accounts, and policies in one entity called the project. And we see for our customers usually that they have different projects for different types of usages in their cloud accounts. So we see usually a project for production, a project for dev staging environments, and a project that I think we put a lot of focus on this DNA, which is the on-demand, ephemeral developer per pull request environment. So let's start looking at those. So each project, even if it's for production or for on-demand environments, has variables that basically connects you to the cloud account and any other settings that you want. And those are sensitive and hidden. And then the admin can define who can do what in which privileges. So we have the viewer for the CFO or product managers that can look at cloud resources at their cost. Planner, it's for the approval flow, like a developer in production that can change some variable value, but another person, a colleague, needs to approve it. So that's the deployer that can actually deploy cloud resources. So DevOps in production or developers in non-production are developers. And admin is the group manager that can decide who can do what. And what is the what? The what is a catalog of TerraGrant or Terraform-based Git repos that already exist in the source control of the customer. But in addition to Terraform or TerraGrant, we have a unique concept of custom flow. If you add env0 YAML to your Git repo, you can do whatever you want, whenever you want. And when I mean whenever, it's before, after the Terraform init, plan, apply, destroy, success, error, and some other great places. We see a lot of Chef, Puppet, Ansible, kubectl, AWS, and other CLIs, Bash, Python, PowerShell for the Windows oriented, that eventually the user can create a new environment from scratch and later on update those environments. So that's how you create a new environment, and you can see the policies that we have here. So very unique for the on-demand environments is the TTL policy, because it's easy to request resources, but usually those developers or QA or sales engineers for demos or whatever need eventually to destroy those resources. So we have the concept of default and maximum time to live policies, okay? So you can have the flexibility of self-service for the developers and also to give them the flexibility to extend it, but up to a maximum. And you cannot create more than the maximum unless you are an admin. So that's one thing about the TTL policies. And the other thing is our hierarchy of variables that we found very useful. So we have 4 layers of places to put variables. We have global for the organization, per Git repo template, per project, and specific for environment. And we can simplify, if needed, with a drop-down list, the options, allowed options for variables values for the user. We have the option to whether to deploy all the way or to stop after the plan. So let's just click here that we want to apply all the way to the actual deployment. So while this is being created, let's look at an already existing environment and understand how we manage existing environments. Okay, so this is an existing environment. The person who wrote the template can define what are the outputs which are exposed to the users in order to access the resources, but we also automatically provide interesting information, like we parse the state so we understand all of the resources that were created, the last logs, the recent logs, all of the deployment history, the variables values that were used, the number of resources in that workspace, and something very unique for env0, our cost. We do actual cost over time and add tags. Okay, if you look at our deployments, there is a step, it's optional, but if you decide to do so, it will execute TerraTag. TerraTag is an open source, you can check it in our GitHub. It's an open source to inject tags recursively in Terraform code. We support the main 3 vendors, providers, AWS, Azure, and Google. So that injects those tags. We understand which tags in those providers are taggable, which are not taggable. So you don't just have the orange line, you also have the vertical green lines that correlate a deployment to the cost. So you can isolate and understand that this was a bad deployment that increased the cost, this was a neutral deployment, and this was a great deployment that reduced the cost. And you can easily understand from each deployment what happened and what affected that cost. Because if you look at the plan, you will see that there is a good reason why this affected the cost, because the resource here changed from small to medium.
4 minutes.
That's true. So that's our cost capabilities, which is super helpful. And in addition to TTL policy, we have scheduling. So if you need to destroy those in nights and weekends to reduce cost, maybe start those automatically on Monday mornings, you can do that as well. So now let's talk about how you update an environment. Okay. So to update an environment, you click redeploy, or everything you see here is using API or CLI as well. You can just get the latest code. You can change the code that it's based on. You can change the variable values. And as HashiCorp has GitOps with SCM integration, so you can redeploy automatically on push. You see the plans on pull request in your source control like GitHub, and you can filter. It depends on if you're monorepo or not monorepo and some folders, so you can understand. You can tell us if you want that for every change, every Git push to that repo, or just on the relevant folder. So that's how you update an existing environment. Few more interesting things. So that's an environment that we created like 4 minutes ago. It will be destroyed automatically in 12 hours. Before it's going to be destroyed, the user will get a notification. We have email support, Slack support. Soon we're going to have Microsoft Teams support. So they're going to get a notification in advance. Listen, your environment is going to be destroyed. You need an extension, and they can extend it if they want. So that's a very useful use case for developers to have their environments, not forgetting them for too long time, but to still have control on whenever they want to run it. A few more things worth showing. So the approval flow. Okay, so if you have something waiting for approval, you get notification. It also presented in a dedicated facet of needs attention environments. So if you look at those environments, you will see that you need to make a decision. Deployer can make a decision whether or not to deploy it, yes or not. And if you have several pending, we manage that in a queue. I will not go over policy as code, but all in all, we are integrated with OPA. So that's our way to do policy as code. Open standard, non-vendor locking. You can take your OPA code later on if you don't want to use env0 and use your Jenkins or Scalar or Spacelift or whoever wants to support that. Few more things. We want to add more capabilities about the managed self-service. So we want to add limits on what our users can do. Now we have environments limits, so you can set no more than 3 environments per user per project. We want to add budget limits. That's in our roadmap because we have the actual cost, so we can prevent deployments if they exceed $200 per month per user, $500 per month per team. Obviously, we support teams, and $1,000 per project. So we have the concept of budget.
1 minute.
We already have the data, so we want to add those limits. I'm pretty much done here. I want to add that we support SAML, by the way, from our free or not free, just the regular paid tiers. So you can use it very, in SMBs. You can use our SAML, no SAML tax, SOC 2 as well. And we have unlimited concurrent runs on all of our tiers, including our free tier. So that's our story. One last thing, if you like it, please follow us on env0 and my personal Twitter handle, DevOps Ohad. Thank you very much.